Collin Sexton's quest for 82 falls short, but he is the story of the NBA season for the Utah Jazz. It's next on Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider, and this is Locked on Jazz. Today, Collin Sexton quest for 82 ends with illness. Do we see Collin again? I don't know, but he is the story of success of the NBA season for the Utah Jazz. Watching guys play for their careers might not be how you hoped this season would end, but it's really darn cool. And last night, we saw it at a high level. We'll talk about that. And NBA madness. My goodness, what is going on in this league? We'll talk about all the crazy permutations and 1v1 tonight. That's all coming up on today's edition of Locked on Jazz. I am David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. And this is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Give you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen. We are free. We're available on all podcasting apps and on YouTube. Please subscribe, follow, like button, thumbs up, really matters. Oh, look at if you're on YouTube, David's pinky's not good. Fell yesterday. For those of you who are skiers, my ski pre-released at like 30 miles an hour yesterday. Not good. So yes, the pinky is not working correctly today. Anyway, and to everydayers, you're the best. Thank you very, very much. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. So I was really hoping that Collin Sexton was going to play 82 games. I thought it was cool. And I thought it was kind of the ultimate Collin Sexton. Like, to me, when the year started, I think I said this a lot about Collin. He was the most endearing, most well-intended kind of player I'd ever covered who I thought had zero chance, or I didn't say zero, but limited chance to be able to accomplish the things he knew he was supposed to and what he hoped to do. I mean, that's really, truly kind of what I thought on Collin, was that having spent time with him, there was this energy and eagerness and delightfulness and contagion to his energy. And you talked to him and he said all the right things and the desire was there and he was going to watch film. He was going to do everything he possibly could to do the right things. And then you watched him on the floor and there was like, yeah, there's no chance he can do that. There's no chance that with his energy level and the way he sees the game, that there's any possibility that Collin Sexton is going to be able to do what he just told me that he knows he should do. That was literally how I felt about it. And I didn't mean that negatively. I've had that happen plenty of times in my career where you're interacting with someone and you can tell that every intention is right. It's the first part of any of this. But then you realize that, yeah, it's probably not going to happen. Well, he proved that to be entirely not true. Early in the year, when he took a pick and roll, to me, it looked like he was buffering. He would stand up there at the top. All of his athleticism and his juice and his energy were gone. And he just sat there thinking, what do I do now? What's the next record move? What am I supposed to do? And then as the year went on, he got 1,000 pick and rolls under his belt. I don't know if he's hit 5,000 for his career, but maybe he has. Maybe that's the number we keep talking about. Maybe he's just done it. And he was quite good. I mean, early in the year, we had the two worst, and we have the two worst pick and roll guards in the league in Collin Sexton, and Taylor Horton-Tucker and Keontae George. And of the top 60 pick and roll guards by the end of the year, Brandon Miller was last and Keontae is second to last. Okay, that's not surprising. They're both rookies. That's Paulo Banchero is an all-star, borderline all-NBA. He's fifth to last. This is just Scoot Henderson's in this group. This is how it works. Well, Collin finished the year of the top 60 pick and roll guards, 13th in efficiency on points per chance. Here's the top 15 guards. Tyrese Halliburton, And by the way, for the playoffs, something that's going to be super interesting is that Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner are far and away the best two-man group in the league. Derek White, Spencer Dinwiddie, interesting. Jalen Williams, Oklahoma City, second-year player, incredible. Jason Tatum. Tatum and Williams ran just about the same amount. Dame Lillard, Luka Doncic, Devin Booker, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, TJ McConnell, interesting. Trae Young, Steph Curry, Collin Sexton, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards. I mean, that's the name. Those are the names of the names of the names. And there's Collin Sexton, who at one point in his career really seemed, honestly, kind of incapable of being a solid pick and roll guard in the NBA and making the right decisions, who slowed down enough, learned how to play, learned how to, and has evolved into a bona fide, legitimate scoring guard in the NBA. Now, is he a sixth man or a starter? I don't know if I don't care. Like, he can put it in the bucket, and he now does it in a manner that is not horrifically selfish, frankly. If you look at his progression year to year, let's look at that because it gets to the 5,000 number. In his first year, let me just make sure of something here that I have his first year correctly. I do not have 18-19 here. Give me 1 second. I was one because of Collin's injury year. I was short one. So give me 1 second to add one more year in here, and then we'll get this for you. If you look at Collin as a pick and roll guard, his first year in the NBA in 18-19, he averages 0.895 points per pick and roll. That's probably was close to last in the league. Second year, from 0.895, he goes to 0.913. He then goes to 0.945. Then in last year in Utah, he's at 0.98, but he only runs 515. And this year he runs over 1,000 at 1.05 points per pick and roll. It's the story of the season for the Jazz, is that he is a viable, solid pick and roll scoring guard in the NBA. And this is even before you lose drives. The other one that's interesting here is my model that I keep plugging in is that you have to have run 5,000 pick and rolls before you get over 1 point per possession as a pick and roll guard, which is viable. He was at 5,500 when the year started. So he hits that model that we've kind of built on this show, unique to Locked On, hopefully making it worth it to be a everydayer, that Collin Sexton goes over that number, and then he, puts this together. When you look at the guys just on drives, right? So this is not pick and roll, but just driving to the basket, head down, making a play. Collin ran 4,000, has run 5,000 drives in all those years of his career. And if we look at just this year with Collin and what he was able to do, he ran the 12th most amount of drives of anyone in the league. I look at the top 90 drive players, top 60 pick and roll, 2 per team. Drives are a little more common. So I look, but you do get kind of deep. You get into like Jonathan Kuminga makes this list. So there's probably some value to pulling this up to the top 60. But if you look at the top 90 pick and roll guards, Collin finishes 23rd. Pretty big time. Pretty big time. And if we want to limit it down to the top 60 guys who've run those, and so that you have a little bit more of, the top level guys in the league, then then his placement is a little different. Then he comes in out of the top 60, and then he's 12th. He's kind of right back where he is in the pick and roll game. And here are the guys. Jalen Brunson or Shai Gilgeous is he runs the 12th most, and here's his efficiency. He comes in 20th out of top 60 on pick and roll guards. On driving guards. And the best are Luka, Tyrese Halliburton, Jason Tatum, DeMar DeRozan, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, LeBron, Devin Booker, Giannis, Brandon Ingram, Kyrie Irving, Donovan Mitchell. That's the name of the name. Austin Reeves, Jaylen Brown. There's not a surprise here. Dame Lillard, Paul George, James Harden, CJ McCollum, Steph Curry, TJ McCollum's your first surprise. Collin Sexton, followed by Anthony Edwards, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, Jalen Brunson. Those are the guys. And Collin's in that group. It's an awesome, awesome season for Collin. I was hopeful he'd do the 82, thought it was kind of cool, but he ends up, 4 threes a game at 39%. His 2-point shooting dropped a tiny bit near at the end. Still a brilliant free throw shooter. His assist numbers were he's one of the worst assist guys in all of the NBA. He had one of the lowest assist to usage rates of any player in all of the NBA in his first 2 years. And he now has become efficient, drives the basketball, moves the basketball when needed, plays and is infectious, plays hard, just does so many things well. His assist to usage rate was 0.60 and 0.54 his first 2 years. In other words, the amount of assist rate is how often a player gets an assist given to how often they have the ball. This year was at 0.99. He basically doubled it from his second year in the NBA. His assist rate was 15 and 14% in his first 2 years. This year was 28%. His points per scoring opportunity were 102 and 112 his first 2 years. It was 121 this year. And his usage rate was still up. It's a banner year for Collin Sexton. It's awesome, and congratulations to Collin on a fabulous year. No 82, but unbelievable work for him. I'm bummed that he didn't get the 82. Watching guys play for their jobs and their livelihood is not ideal at the 78th game of the season, but I thought it was really cool last night. We'll talk about it next on Locked on Jazz. The Wednesday edition of Locked on Jazz is brought to you by our friends over at Intercap Lending. Steve Carter is our own personal loan officer at Intercap, and honestly, I can't tell you about a better customer service guy than Steve Carter. He continues to wow multiple Locked on listeners who have sent me notes, and then I set them up with Steve, and then immediately Steve's on it and taking care of them. Intercap Lending has been in Utah now for a while. They came and built it out. I think they started advertising with us in like 2018, maybe. We're probably 6-7 years in with Intercap. Steve Carter has just continued to service. They started back in Utah in April of 2016. They're one of the largest independent lending companies in the country. They act differently. They're hyper responsive. They embrace change. They give you the borrower experience and then a good borrower experience. But then most of all, we have Steve Carter, Locked On's own personal loan officer. So you can call Steve directly, 385-800-8528, or you can email me at dlock09@gmail.com and I'll set up the meeting for you with Steve Carter. They do love to focus on Utah, but they can go nationwide. So if you're listening somewhere else and you need a loan, Steve Carter's your guy, 385-800-8528. Intercap Lending, NMLS number 190465. It is the best customer service experience you will ever have. I absolutely promise you that. It's Steve Carter over at Intercap Lending. Today's show is also brought to you by Game Time, the number one ticketing app for you to deal with. Why? Well, multitude of reasons, but let's start with the best one. The flash deals and the zone deals are just great. Exclusive in-app deals, select seats for the game and event. Zone deals, choose a section, they choose the seats for you, you get better pricing. All-in pricing, toggle the feature that shows the total up front, you see no surprises at checkout. Seat view, you get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy, and you get the lowest price guaranteed. Game Time, 110% difference. We had a big chat going on about Game Time and how to do these apps. Like, honestly, it was about, like, what's the best thing to do with your ads? What have your experiences been? The number one thing that all the Locked On hosts kind of came back and said was I never have to go search other apps because I know that I'm getting the best price every time with Game Time. So download the Game Time app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply, but create your account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps. And now we are free and available for you with the Locked On 24/7 stream. Right now, Peacock and Williamson are playing on my Amazon Fire. If you are watching Fox or ESPN on your TV all day, turn down the volume and make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 streaming app program every day with the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports brings you can't-miss analysis, local experts, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube and free on Amazon Fire TV apps. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Jazz got beat last night, but I thought they played pretty well. They gave Denver a little run, and they were playing with two guys who are on NBA rosters at this point last year against the best team in the NBA. I thought there was some cool stuff. And one of the things was cool was watching guys get a chance to play for their lives. their basketball lives. And, we don't think about this very often. First of all, these guys have made so bunch of them made, even without being big time players, they've made a lot of money. And so it's not like they're playing for like the chance to, for housing, right? I got it. I mean, Omer Yurtseven has played 2 years in the NBA as a marginal player or marginal piece, and he's made $3.2 million. Right. So I'm not sitting here asking for sympathy in that regard, but Omer Yurtseven's made $3.2 million and is probably right on the edge, quite honestly, of whether or not he gets a contract next year. Like, it's probably a little in doubt of, well, actually, he is signed for 2.6, but I don't know if it's his option or player option. I think it's team option. So there's a chance that the Jazz could just pick up his 2.6 million. He's played for 2.8 this year. But there's also a chance that the Jazz don't pick him up. And if the Jazz don't pick up his option, I don't know that Omer Yurtseven's in the league next year. I don't know that Luka Samanic, who's an unrestricted free agent, is in the league next year. And when you start to look at this for just a brief second, Omer Yurtseven is 25 years old. Like, it happens. The average lifespan of an NBA player is 3.5 years. Luka Samanic is 24 years old. And they have dreams and aspirations and goals and hopes and expecting things. And Luka's a little different. He's made $9 million from his rookie contract. So he, again, no poverty here. But like, you don't really want your career over 25 or 24. Darius Bazley is trying to hang on, right? He signed a 3-year non-guaranteed deal, but he's trying to hang on. And again, he was a first-round pick, so he's got his first-round contract. How much of those, those are the contracts that go away really fast. The agents, people, everyone around you ends up getting your first grab of money because there's never any thought that you're not going to make it. And, after, I think Darius has made 11. So, like, these guys aren't right. Okay. But the other side of it is that they're 23 years old, 24 years old, and they're really playing for their careers right now. And I thought it was really cool to watch. Like, Omer is just a super interesting, hardworking, total professional who showed that last night. Like, he was completely ready to play, to go to battle against Nikola Jokic, and he had 20 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 assists and 2 steals. That performance alone might mean that the Minnesota Timberwolves or somebody in the Western Conference who knows they're going to have to play Jokic decides, you know what, if that's my third big, I'm good with it. New Orleans might decide, like, oh, yeah, we'll take Yurtseven as our third big in case Valanciunas or somebody else gets hurt, because we're going to have to face Nikola Jokic. And he battled him pretty good last night, forced him into 5 or 6 turnovers. Jokic was still great, 28, 13, and 7, but he wasn't actually, I've seen him be much more dominant. Omer did a fabulous job. And then, and Omer's delightful. Like, the other aspect to me is I've spent a year with these guys, know who they all are. Omer's a super interesting psychology major out of Georgetown who, comes out of bookstores with books about, the hidden rise of communism in Central America, or some, really deep intellectual topic, a psychology self-help book from as well. I mean, like, he's just a really interesting dude, and he's trying to make it in the league, and he's been a total pro. He's ready to play every minute of every time along the way. Luka Samanic had 15 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists. He's the most nervous player I may have ever seen in an NBA game. He's wildly skilled, right? I mean, I watch him in practice. He's 6'10". He's 230 pounds. He works out feverishly on his body. He is committed to the craft. Like, these guys are totally committed day in and day out. They never play. Like, the thing I think also on this is, like, the thing they love probably the most in life, unless it's been zapped from them during this process, is basketball. That's their favorite thing. And then they go to practice, they work with individual coaches, they go through 2-hour work, 2-hour workouts with coaches. They do all this film watching, and then they never play. They never get the dividend for their work. So how great is it to see this night, where last night Luka plays 35 minutes. And to me, Luka is truly one of the most, everything seems nervous to me on the floor. Like, here's this incredible body that just moves fluidly and is fabulous. And you watch him, and in practice, he shoots so well. And then he gets in games and he misses shots by a lot. And then he misses the little bunnies, and he's just tight. It just looks to me like he's tight the whole time. And you wonder last night, like he had such a good second half. Did he finally just settle in and have a comfortable game because he knew he had time coming to him? I don't know. But I think that's what you're trying to find out on him is, you know, what what can he do if he just is able to relax a little bit and calm down and play the game. And I thought we saw a second half where he punished switches and he played really well and he had a little jump hook and he quick released a corner three and it went in instead of, like, I've always thought the less time he has to prepare for a shot, the better. Sure, like, who knows? I don't know that Luka Samanic gets a job. Probably is a non-roster invite at shooting 36% and 25% from three in limited time this year, on a team that didn't win a lot of games. He spent 21-22 in the G League already. He's probably he might have to do it again. But with that body, it's pretty hard to ignore. He hopefully gets another chance. But Luka Samanic is trying right now to do that. Darius Bazley, I don't know him at all. I have yet to talk to him. I mean, that's kind of craziness about this season, and just we haven't had a chance to interact. It's probably on me. But here's an interesting kid, right? He's the 17th biggest recruit in the country in 2018. He's coming out of high school. He's I think by that time he was in high school in Ohio. I think he grew up in Boston, and he doesn't go to college. He takes a different route, and then he gets drafted by the 23rd pick of the draft. And he starts 55 games his second year and 53 his third. And you would think he's on his way. And then he's basically bouncing around and out of the league, right? He 36 games in, he gets sent to Phoenix. Phoenix signs him. They let him go. He goes to Philadelphia for 3 games. He's in Utah for 3 games. So, and he's interesting. He's 6'8", 210. It's the same kind of body that's impossible to find. It's why they get drafted. Luka it's interesting also is Luka's a 19th pick and Bazley's a 23rd pick, and they don't make it, right? They don't make it their initial stop. Will they be able to make it their secondary stop? And Bazley's interesting because he's long enough that he can defend. He also is interesting that he loses his balance all the time still. Is that just a coordination or strength thing? He's fallen over 3 times offensively in the games. I don't know. I've not seen, I'm just learning, watching him. He's not been a very good shooter in his NBA career. Can he become, Ron Boone was watching New Orleans, was can Bazley be Herb Jones? Herb Jones wasn't a very good shooter. Came out of college, shot it all right, shot it badly. He's been all over the map, but he's a great defensive player. I think Herb Jones is a little stronger and has that mentality, but he's at 6'8", 210. He just looks physically stronger, but maybe, right? He's 3-point shooting is 34% his first year, 33% his second year, and 42% this year for Herb Jones. That's it. But he's also now played, 200 and started 200 games. Can Bazley evolve? That's what you're hoping. So to me, I get it. 13 game or 12 game or whatever it is, losing streak, I don't even know anymore, is no fun. And, we might grab one before we're done here, depending on how things play out. 13 game losing streak. But it is, and final home game of the year will be great against Houston just because it's always good energy. But to me, it's really fun. And then Talon has made a lot of money. And I get that Talon driving the basket and getting caught in the air is super frustrating for everybody. But on the other end, Talon's playing for his career too right now. And Talon's a free agent at the end of the year. He got a massive contract, or massive $11 million a year. It's a really good contract. He's in his third year, but he's going to make, he's going to make 33. It made $33 million here. So he's made a lot of money. His life is set if he does this right for life. But he's also playing for his career. I don't know that he gets a contract next year. I'm assuming somebody gives him one, but maybe not. And so suddenly Talon has an opportunity last night and played really well. Dominated the quarter, was the best player for the Jazz for an extended period of time. And then he still gets caught. He's got to learn these things. He's got to learn how to not be, he's not so athletic. He can get on top of everyone every time. And so how does he figure out his rim finishing? And his 3-point shooting was greatly improved. He's one of the biggest improvements in the whole team in his shooting this year. So I found it really cool. I just want to give a shout out to those guys. And it's what, find the enjoyment of watching these guys who are humans try to make a career. And I thought it was neat last night. NBA is nuts. We'll talk about it as we continue here on Locked On Jazz. Next episode of today's show is brought to you by our friends over at BetterHelp. BetterHelp is convenient, flexible online therapy. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. So BetterHelp, by being online therapy, by being exactly the words I just said, flexible and convenient, is super for you. Because one of the bigger problems for those who decide to use therapy is once you find a therapist, what happens if you don't like them, or how do you find a therapist? It's virtually impossible with the demand on therapists right now. And BetterHelp is here to make it easier for you to get started by being entirely online. So go to betterhelp.com/lockedonnba to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. In regards to therapy, the way I like to talk about it is it's performance enhancing, right? You go to the weight room to performance enhance your muscles. You eat correctly to performance enhance your body. And this is performance enhancing for your brain and your mind. Why are you getting caught in the same things? Why do your thoughts go where they do? How can you prevent yourself from thinking wild thoughts? How can you not spiral yourself? I frankly had some issues probably in the last month and a half. I was fully spiraling myself with it. Like, think through, why am I doing this? What is causing it? What's going on? Talk to someone about it, get it understood, and become a better person, perform it with performance enhancing for your brain. It's BetterHelp, betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba for 10% off your first month. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and fit your schedule. Try it out today. BetterHelp.com/lockedonnba. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. Jazz Rockets final home game. Tickets available, utahjazz.com. Jazz Plus, by the way, has a ton of great content. You might want to sign up. Subscribe to that as you get ready for the offseason. The Andre Karolinko, All Access. There's an Ashley Smith interview with Holly Rowe that's terrific. So there's a bunch of really great things that are out there going on. All right. Last night was nuts. Kind of. Like, it is nuts right now and fun to watch. I will say the one thing, the fact there's just so many teams that are not winning basketball games makes the chance of drama seem a little less. But let's walk through what happened last night. Minnesota wins. Denver wins. Oklahoma City wins on top. Oklahoma City beat Sacramento. So give Oklahoma City credit. That was a game that was in doubt. Minnesota was playing Charlotte. Denver was playing us. Clippers throttle Phoenix last night. They led 35-4. Dallas beat Charlotte last night. I think I just said Minnesota beat Charlotte. Minnesota beat Washington. And then the Pelicans held on to beat New Orleans. So the top 6 teams all won last night in the West. And credit to really the Clippers in Oklahoma City, because they won games that actually matter. Phoenix by losing, falls a game behind the Pelicans with 3 to play. They play the Clippers again tonight. They both got on a plane and went to LA after playing last night. Phoenix closes the year at the Clippers, at Sacramento, and at Minnesota. Phoenix seems to be destined for a play-in. Sacramento lost last night. They're 2 games out of 6th with 3 to play. They seem destined for a play-in. The Pelicans really increased their chances last night of making the playoffs. The Kings play the Pelicans coming up here. Then they're home against Phoenix, which is a big one because that actually may be to determine who gets home court in that 7-8 matchup. And then they close with Portland. So they have 1 good win and then 2 games that actually matter. And Sacramento's really reeling. Sacramento's lost 5 of their last 8. The Lakers lost last night to the Warriors, and that game is now a half-game separation. Right when the Warriors thought that their loss to Dallas kind of ended their quest, Steve Kerr even sat in the press conference with us basically saying, hey, we're just going to probably play this one out, get ready for the play-in. They're now just a half game behind with a game at Portland, home against New Orleans, and us. So they have kind of a win on Thursday at Portland, and then they have the Pelicans at home, which is a big game, and then they have us. If the Warriors win out, they could finish at 47-35, which, by the way, for those who think we bypass the playoffs, I don't love our game, what we've done. I'm not selling that. But those who think we were not winning 47 games, like that's worth noting. The Lakers only have 2 games left now, and they're both on the road. They're at Memphis and at New Orleans. So we'll see At Memphis should be a W, though Memphis has gotten a little feisty recently, having won 4 out of 6. They're not like the Jazz have lost 10 straight or 13 straight or Portland's lost 8 of 10. The Spurs and Memphis have gotten a little feisty recently. So the Warriors now suddenly have a minor chance. They're exact same as the loss column as the Lakers to end up getting out of that 10th spot. The other question is just what happens with Sacramento and whether they drop. So we're beginning to get settled, but then tonight's the big one. Tonight's must-see TV. Tonight is Denver, Minnesota, really the winner that's going to end up with the 1 seed. If Oklahoma City beats San Antonio, the loser will end up tied for 3rd. Phoenix, LA is a monster game tonight because if LA wins it, they will clinch the 4th spot. Not a big surprise. And Phoenix will be virtually clinched into the play-in. The one that's interesting over in the East is Giannis out with a calf strain, could probably miss the first round of the playoffs. Philadelphia looks to be the likely 7th seed. Philadelphia, Milwaukee in the first round, I would take Philadelphia. The Knicks have moved to 3. Orlando's at 4 with the loss last night. Cleveland has lost 3 in a row, is sitting at 4 or 5. They maybe just be excited because they're not going to see. But Indiana's right behind them. The last thing Cleveland wants is New York. No one wants New York. Actually, the Knicks are playing really well. By the way, the early season predictions of the Knicks being really good have turned out to be all right. The Cleveland being the 1 seed has not turned out to be all right. All right. That is the wackiness of the NBA. Tonight's a good one. So late night game, Minnesota at Denver. I don't even know. Is that a, you would think that that's an ESPN game or something of the sort to watch tonight. I don't know if it is. So I don't know if I'm watching on League Pass. I have League Pass. So it is an ESPN game tonight. Timberwolves, Nuggets, ESPN should be a good one. And actually, Phoenix Clippers are going to be fascinating because 35-4 start. Clippers, by the way, are 7-2 since Westbrook came back. They Clippers Denver first round. Or Clippers Dallas first round could then play the 1 seed. Maybe being the 1 seed is not the greatest thing ever. You might want to be on the other side of the bracket. Who knows? Jazz, Rockets tomorrow. This is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast in the Utah Jazz. Thanks so much for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. Have a wonderful day. We send you now to the first ever 24/7 national streaming channel. It's Locked on Sports Today. Make the switch to Locked on Sports Today on YouTube or on Amazon Fire TV. If you're on audio, go click over next time you're on YouTube. Have a good one. Thanks.